Welcome to our fifth mission. Today we are following one man as he travels and follows God's mission. But let's check and see who he is in Genesis 11:31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So the person we are most interested in today is Abram, or Abraham as he will be known. And our beginning is in Haran. Now though this is where we start, we will do some traveling today. But let's not waste any time. Let's get in there, agents. Now we are at Abram's home. Let's find out what God has in store for him. In chapter 12, verse 1, Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So here, God has a mission for Abram. He wants him to leave his father's house, take his family, and go to a land that he has provided. Let's see where he goes. Verse 8. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. So Abram went to Bethel, and there he stayed for a time. But he found some trouble there. Verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they shall kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken unto Pharaoh, into Pharaoh's house. And verse 17, And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Verse 20, And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife, and all that he had. So Abram, in his own wisdom, decided it was better to leave this land God had brought them to, and travel to Egypt. And not just travel to Egypt, but also lie in fear that he would die. Now, do you think it might have been better for him had he stayed in Bethel, had he stayed where God brought him? Perhaps, perhaps not. There was a lot of trouble brought to Pharaoh through this delay, through this detour that Abram took. But let's find out what Abram does next. Go to verse 14, verse 1. Verse 13, rather, verse 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And verse 3, And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. So he's back at the beginning where he started. Nothing gained. But let's continue and see what happens there. Verse 7. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. Verse 11, Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. So they had some strife between them. There had been a famine, so perhaps there was not enough grass to go around between both their herds. But now Abram and Lot separated. However, we are going to stay with Abram and follow his journey and what God has for him. Now let's come down to verse 18 and find out where he goes. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So Abram goes to Hebron, while Lot goes to the plains of Jordan. Now let's find out what God has for him there. Let's go to chapter 17. And verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. Let's jump down to verse 15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? Verse 19, And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. So God is continuing with his promise and his covenant to bless all nations, all families of the earth through Abraham. However, they don't have a son. So God has promised that a son will come. Not only a son, but kings. A great nation will come from Abraham and Sarah. I don't know many people 100 or 90 years old having children. But it must be a rare occurrence if it does continue to happen. But here, somehow, God will provide a way. Let's go to chapter 21. Now, after the events here, Abraham names the place. So let's go down to find out where we are in verse 31. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba. So we are in Beersheba. God has promised to Abram, he's given him a new name, him and his wife, to show and remind them that God has a promise, a plan in mind for them, for Abraham and Sarah specifically. Let's see in verse 1, And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived, and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And verse 5, And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. From this mission today, do you think it is better to trust God than rely on our own wisdom? I think it is. We have seen that when Abram went off on his own, he encountered trouble. But when he followed God, God continued with his plan, and he blessed them, as he had said. And from this seed, from this line, it seems, through blessing the whole earth, that promised seed since the beginning of the fall of man, the one who will make all things right, will come. You've done good work today, agents. Let's head back to base and recap on what we've learned. From what we learned today, who is our main person of interest? That's Abram, or Abraham as he is now known. And where did our journey begin? In Haran. Though we traveled and ended up to Beersheba, we started in Haran. Then we came to Canaan. And what exactly happened in this mission? There were many things, but I think we can condense it down. Perhaps God's promise to Abraham, or God's chosen nation. One of those could sufficely sum up what we have seen today. But in either case, mark that gray box for a mission accomplished. And until next time, farewell.